J-rum. Ooh, boy.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's J-rum, and today we're checking out kicks and 808s, specifically inside FL Studio. And before I start the tutorial, let me just say this. Anything that you hear in this tutorial, please don't take it as a rule or, it has to be done a certain way. These are just my approaches and how, I try to achieve, 808s and kicks to sound good together and stuff. So there are no rules in mixing, so please don't take anything I say in this tutorial like, oh, it has to be done this way, because it's not, guys. Have some fun, experiment, and really that's all that matters. So let's jump in here, guys. I have two kicks. One's punchy, one's kind of, it's got a little mid, low, and high actually. We got a Kountdown 808 because I thought it'd be a perfect example. And then we have a clap, hi-hat, and then two VSTs loaded up for Nexus. Now, let me just get this out of the way real quick for the beginners. If you bring in a kick or an 808, always make sure you cut it. And if it's out of sync, like if you listen to it, yeah, it's not even playing. That must be super low. Let's do this one for example. Sometimes you'll get a sound in the left-hand side of your browser, and you'll drag it in, and when you play it, it doesn't sound the same. Sometimes it's usually the time stretching, and even though it looks like it's on 0, sometimes it's not. So just make sure to click it, hold it down, and now you got it. Before and then after. That doesn't happen every time, but some samples aren't time stretched, I guess, already. And sometimes you will have this on, like a loop. Basically what that means is it's going to keep looping. For example, and it's just going to keep looping like that. And it sounds bad because a kick plays where you don't want it to. So make sure you unclick that, excuse me. But this is actually very useful for 808s. Let me explain. If this is turned on, which it's not, even though it looks like it is, come into the crossfade and just bring it up until it drags this, like literally like 1%. And then once it's on there, what this does is when you click, the 808, it's short now. You're like, how come? Well, if you click and hold, it sustains. So what's this useful for? Well, bends are an important part of 808s in a lot of genres, trap and hip hop and dubstep. There's so many drops and there's so many basses, and basically a loop point that we just set up. And you see these red lines at the very edge. It makes it possible to do some cool bends. So let's bring this last note up an octave. Click this slide option, this tiny little thing right here. Click that, and then click a note in the piano roll. Now the slide note, you'll see, has an icon. It's right underneath the E5. And that lets you know that's the slide note. And if you put it on it, like same length and same time, you'll have a slow, long bass bend. For example, listen. Let's say you wanted a faster release and you wanted it to just happen at the last 2 bars. Well, shorten it, make it the last 2 bars. Let's take a listen. Alright, so the 808 really isn't a long sustained 808, so we'll have to bend up. So let's get rid of this. Let's drop this back down. And now this is a shorter note, so this will probably work a little better. Let's say we wanted to bring this one up and then do the slide right there. I don't like it there, but you get the point. I could even do the first note, which a lot of people do, including myself. I love doing this. I love doing drops like this and then having the bass stop with the clap. So you get the idea. You can do some pretty cool bends. You can bend up also. You don't have to bend down. So you can do Now that's already kind of funky right there. I could probably do something to that. So I hope this helped you guys understand a little bit about the slides. Now that's one use of the loop points thing. Let me show you what the next one is. If you want your kick to, like your 808s, to stop when your clap hits, for example, like this. Let me shorten this one up. You hear how the 808 stops? If I take this out, it's still going to play over, even though I cut the note short. Let's jump back into the kicks real quick. So let's start with the low mid kick. Pull up an EQ, and I'm just going to hit it and kind of analyze where everything's at. It's got a few highs, a lot of lows. Now the lows are what I want to keep. So I'm going to do a slight roll off of the lows, and then I'm going to take a lot of the highs out. I'm going to jump back to the punchy kick now. And I'm going to open up an EQ for it. I'm going to try to find the main thump in it. And all I'm doing right now is sweeping. Do not think I'm like boosting this up. I'm just trying to find the knocking frequency. So around 320-ish. So now that we know the punchy kick is really punchy in the 300 range, we're going to jump back to our Drake kick. And we're just going to cut that 300 range out. You don't have to, but like I said, this is what I like to do, guys. So this leaves a little bit more room for this kick to stand through with this kick. And let's listen to how it sounds. Alright, sounding pretty cool. Let's bring it back in 808. And let's just see the difference. If I didn't have this and I just wanted a punchy kick, still sounds good, you know. But if you layer a under kick, you get that stomp. Now you're still hearing the high end of the kick around here, which is fine because once we have some more instruments in here, you're not really going to hear it too much. It's sounding kind of good. So what I like to do with accessory kicks, like these low kicks, is just add them in spots and just take the velocity down just a tiny bit. Have a little velocity change, you know? Try to make it sound more realistic. Alright, so let's say we are already having, let's just pull this up real quick. Let's say you pull up a random 808. And this is the one you wanted to use. Now, you see what I'm talking about? Auto. That's not how it sounded. So, undrag it, use loop, undo it, and now you have this 808. Now let's say you love that 808, but it doesn't match your song. How can you find the key? It's easy, guys. Bring up Edison. Whoa. Bring up Edison. Take your sample, drag and drop into Edison. Go to the ABC tab and click detect pitch range. And right here it shows us G2, G3. So I'm assuming the very attack is probably like a kick, and then the rest that tails off is a G. So there's two ways to do this. You could go into your miscellaneous tab and right click the G or the G here. It'll be an octave. So this is octave lower and this is a high octave. But when you right click and you set these, if you mess up and click twice, you'll do like this. And you'll be like, oh my goodness, how can I fix this? Because it's going to sound horrible. Just click reset. But like I said, we know it's in G, so let's right click G. I like the lower octave. And now we can jump in here and we can keep our 808 in tune with our bass line. So I hope that helped you guys find how to tune kicks, but let's see how to get them sound good together. And my favorite tip for getting kicks to sound good together, now this isn't for 808s, this is for kicks right now. So what I mean is stacking kicks. And the way to achieve this is, let's say for example you're searching around for a kick, and let me find one real quick. Just choose this one. We're going to quick cut it, put it on its own channel real quick, and let's press play. Now that's got some thump to it, but with the click of one button, we can make this hit just a little bit harder. So check this out, guys. On the channels, it has a reverse polarity switch right here where the mouse is hovering over. Click this, and now let's listen. Well, here, I'll do it before and after while it's playing. Now, there's two ways to do this. You can do it from the channel right here, or you can do it from the mixer right here. And basically what it's doing is there's phase, and it's causing the signals to kind of cancel each other out. And if you flip that switch, it'll take the polarity and reverse it so the kicks will stack well. And this works with snares also. When I stack snares, sometimes they don't hit, they lose their punch, and I added more. So I'm like, how did I add snares and I lose the punch? Sometimes you just got to flip that switch and your stuff's going to sound a lot better. Now let's jump into the 808 section. And a lot of people want to know, how can I get my kick and 808 to hit hard? There's tons of reasons why you may not be getting this. It could be, you just have too much instruments, it's way too loud, you're clogging up the frequencies that, need that fundamental bass to hit. So why I chose this 808 from Kountdown's kit is it's just a loud 808. It sounds great. It's got mids, it's got a lot of lows. So when I was coming up, I was always wondering, I'm like, I would listen to beats on my iPhone and I would wonder, how do I hear 808s on my iPhone speaker? And it's not really hearing 808s. I would hear the like mid-range from it. And I'm like, how am I hearing mid-range bass? When I hear a sine wave, I can't get it to do that. Well, I found out a few years ago, if I added distortion to a sine wave, now, a lot of producers probably already know this, so this is probably for the beginners. But let's take a basic sine wave. We'll load up Nexus, basic sine. So that's what you're usually with, right? Sounds really good. It's hitting. But I kind of want it to be present on like iPhone speakers and stuff. So when people aren't listening on loudspeakers, they can kind of still hear where the 808 is. And I realized by adding distortion, I kind of add harmonics to certain frequencies. Let's look at this and you'll see what I mean. You see what I mean? There's this, and all these lines. These are added harmonics. Waves also has a great plugin called RBass, and it kind of does the same thing. It kind of mimics and adds harmonics to an 808 signal, to a sine wave, or any wave, really, any sound. But specifically for sine waves and 808s, this is how I like to get my 808s to sound where they're good in the mids and also knocking on the low end. So as you can see, there's all these added harmonics. Now I would actually come through here and I would kind of get rid of some of them. I'm thinking around like 800 hertz sounds pretty decent. That way it won't get too caught up in the mid-range and all the important frequencies. Now, let's say you have all this and you love it. And let's say that's how loud you want it, Sometimes you got to turn it down though, guys. You got to turn it down. So turn it down a tiny bit where it's still loud where you want it, but not freaking knocking, Right now, it don't sound bad because I don't have nothing on my master channel. If you kept it at this volume and you boost in, you put in limiters and compressors, you might hurt the signal, you might raise things that you don't want to. So I'd say turn it down a little bit Now, this is the huge tip right here, guys. Take your punchy kick and right click your bass channel and click Sidechain. Head over your 808, and what you're going to want to do is bring up a limiter. Go to your limiter setting, hit compress, this button right here, click and drag up to 1. What this does is it takes your kick and it links it to your bass for a sidechain kick. What does this do? Well, sidechain compression is really ducking the 808 when the kick hits. So people always ask, how can I get my kick punchy and my bass loud? Well, the reality is you got to make room for it. Now here's what we do. You have to activate it first. Like I said, hit compression, lift this to 1, drag down. I bring my ratio up, and now let's play this, and you'll see it duck. I can duck it hard, which sounds like this. I can make the release long. But of course, nobody would want that unless it's specific for the song. I don't think it sounds good with this, but let's bring it up just a tiny bit. And all we're really doing when you look at it is we're taking the kick and we're just kind of ducking the 808 right for it to hit, you know. So I hope this helped, guys. I hope this is a fun tutorial. I hope it helps your 808s get louder and, you know, makes your kicks hit harder. Thanks, guys. Subscribe, thumbs up. We'll see you next time.